Or Ray. Do you prefer Ray or Raven?
Ray.
Okay, we're here with Ray. Stingray. Did you watch that?
You can refer to me as Stingray.
The Karate Kid?
No.
Cobra Kai?
No.
You didn't watch that with the kids? Okay. We're here with Ray, and he has questions. He's about to become a first-time owner of a Boa Constrictor, so he's come here with questions, and I thought it would be fun to just do this and see what the answers are, and maybe you'll learn something from that too, or find it entertaining, or hopefully.
Yep, sounds good.
Okay, Raymond, go for it.
Here we go with question number 1. Do you keep ball pythons and boas in the same room?
In fact, I like to keep them in the same tank. No, I don't. Yeah, so you can keep them in the same room.
Okay.
Yeah, snakes do have very sensitive smells and everything, but it's not. The snakes are not sensitive to each other's smells, unless like a female snakes. You actually asked about that, so we'll save that for later. But the only thing you have to worry about with keeping snakes in the vicinity of each other is like males being super close, and even that's not really that big of an issue. Like it could be during breeding season, but what you have to think about snakes is they smell rodents. Mm-hmm. So if they smell any type of rodent, that will make them a little bit uneasy. Right. So if you're breeding rats in the same room that you have your snakes, which lots of people do.
I've seen it.
Lots of big breeders have their rats over here and their snakes over there, but having the rodents in the same room with the animals, it changes them because they can be in feeding mode all the time, or they'll be looking for food more. Even when I'm feeding my snakes, on the day I feed my snakes, I take the rodents into the room to feed them, and then all of them go into feeding mode. I have some snakes that I have together, and when I know that I'm feeding those snakes that are together, first I separate them, then I bring the food into the room, and then I feed them. Because if I was to bring the food into the room and then start separating them, I'm going to get nipped like while doing that, or I can very easily because they smell that.
Yeah. Okay. How often do you handle your snakes?
I handle them every day. Is it how often do I handle them, or how often should you handle them? Is that more what you're wondering?
Yeah, probably should.
Well, how often are you handling your ball python?
Every day, once a day. And then some days it's actually 3 days. But I let him decide after the first one I take him out. I just open the lid, and if he comes out, then that's his choice. If not, he'll just stay there and do nothing.
Okay, now I have to show this. We're going to keep talking, but you just have to see this because it's funny. Okay. See, they saw it now. They're hiding. But that was just pretty funny. So you can keep going.
Okay. So how often you suggest to handle?
Oh, how often should you handle them? Basically, I tell people minimal, once a week. Okay. Like at least handle your snake once a week. And you're obviously enjoying your ball python. You're spending more time with it, and when you do spend more time with snakes, they will get used to you. And as you said, your snake comes out to you.
Yes.
So you got to film that and show it to me.
Okay.
Because then I can share that. Because people, like, they get used to you, and they will like, hey, come out. Just like these snakes are now hiding because they got a little scared. They're like, wait a second. They're like, we want to come out and see what's going on. And now they're just like, oh no, they saw us. But they're inquisitive creatures. And if you put more time, you're going to get more out of them. So if you're doing that with your ball python, you can do that with your boa too. Okay. You know, and you can do it at the same time. You can do it at different times. Your boa and your ball python will be fine hanging out together. Like you can let them hang out together. It's not going to be an issue. The only thing that comes to handling is you don't want to take a snake out and handle it all day long. Because
Yeah.
there's people that do that too, and like you take them out, you let them spend a couple hours outside or something. You let them go in the yard. Like, also, like if you take them out during the day, I like to take them out like after 3 o'clock. Like for outside.
Right.
Like I don't go out at 12 p.m. when the sun is out super bright. I don't even do that myself. Like even on a beautiful day, my wife's always mad at me because she's just like, why are you like don't gonna go outside? Because I'm like, if I go out at 12 o'clock, I'm gonna get burned, and I hate sunscreen. I hate putting that lotion on me. Like if you go out after 3 o'clock, you don't get burned.
Right.
So I go out 3 o'clock. 5 o'clock's my favorite. Like when the sun's starting to like get softer and it's just happy hour, golden hour. Like golden hour comes and I'm happy. And now like the snake's coming to say hi. Same thing with temperatures. The biggest thing that we have them in their home is so that they have that right climate inside their home, and that keeps everything good. So if you take them outside and it's perfect weather like today, you can have them out the whole like half a day or whatever if you want, because it's fine for them. But the moment it's winter and the house is a little bit cold and you take them out for like more than an hour or something, then you're actually kind of hurting them a bit.
Yeah.
And same thing if it's a little too hot. You don't want to take your snake out on like 30-degree weather and like
Right.
you just, to me, when the temperature is perfect, that's when they come out the most. Okay, yes.
Do you have any suggestions for introducing a baby boa to a new tank situation? Like generally what they suggest is put him in for a week, let him adjust to the, the tank or whatever enclosure he's living in, and then handle about a week later. They'll feel more comfortable.
So that's a huge thing that lots of people say, and for me, what I like to do is, so they're ready to eat. So you take it home and you feed it.
Okay.
Like, and it's funny because lots of people say let them get comfortable for a week and then feed them.
Yeah, that's what I've.
Yeah, but to me, this is my thinking with that. You're gonna take an animal, put it in a weird place where it might want to get out or escape.
Okay.
But now, if you take that animal, you put it in a new place and you feed it, it's gonna go to the hot spot to digest. See what I mean?
Yeah.
So you get the animal, you give it the food, and then now that it has the food, it has to digest. It goes to the warm spot and it chills out. So to me, I think that's the best way to do it. You take them to their home, and if they'll eat, and I'm telling you, mine will eat. You're going to take it home, you're going to feed it, you're going to leave it alone for 3 days.
Okay.
It's going to digest, it's going to chill. That's going to me, calm it down quicker than anything else. And now, it's happy, it's fed. Now it's going to be exploring a little differently. It's going to be a little slower, a little bit more relaxed. Hey, this is like my new home. Versus, hey, I'm stuck in this place. I don't know where anything is. How can I get out of here?
Right.
Like, do you see
okay,
kind of
yeah.
like the difference in
Yeah.
that kind of process?
What size prey item are you currently feeding those boas?
I basically feed them mice until the largest mice doesn't do for them anymore, and then I switch them onto rats, and they're usually fine with that. They do the switch pretty well.
Yep.
And then once they're on rats, I just keep them on rats.
Okay.
And I have a whole feeding video, so
I'll watch
you
that
watch
for
the
sure.
feeding video. But when I made the feeding video, I was actually starting them on rats just to kind of like easy transition.
Mm-hmm.
But then later on, I realized like sometimes when I was feeding them rats, they were having like gray poop.
Oh,
Like it's
okay.
just there wasn't much bone, and they're not getting as much, and they're just kind of getting gush coming out of them.
okay.
So that's when I switched them to mice, because mice have better bone structure.
Oh, okay. Do you suggest the hide for both sides of the tank, hotspot side and cool side?
I find for hides, certain animals like them and use them all the time. Like ball pythons in general do like using their hide. With boas, I find that boas actually, some do use hides, most of them don't. Like most of them, like when they're little, sometimes they'll want to hide, and then as they get bigger, they just stop using it.
Okay.
And if they don't use it, and I don't really care about having it, so some of them I'll take away the hide, put hides in different places, and sometimes like whenever anything's wrong with the snake, that's when it's like puzzle time. What does the snake want? Because if the snake's trying to get out all the time, something's wrong.
Right.
So it needs hide somewhere, or it needs, you got to give it something.
Yeah.
And you want to stimulate them, so you give them things to climb on, give them things to go under, to go on top, and if they use it a lot, put 2 of them. If they don't use it, put 1 of them. You know.
All right.
I really do like the idea of in custom homes with with shelves, because the shelf on top or under. So doing lower shelves, that way it can kind of go under the shelf,
Right.
or on top of it.
Okay. Is there anything special that you have to do with a female boa when they start to follicate?
When they start developing follicles.
Follicles.
Do they follicate? I don't know. Is that a word? Is that a word? When the females start follicating. It's interesting that you asked that, because I've never even really had people talk about that. Lots of time it's always the males people are talking about, like when males get into breeding, but when females start developing follicles. So when the females start developing follicles, they do have kind of the pheromones, and that's what causes the males to really breed them, right?
Oh,
So
okay.
that's just interesting kind of side fact that when it's the female that gets the male to breed usually. So if your females aren't producing follicles, they're not going to give off the pheromones, and the males aren't going to be as interested in them.
Okay.
But there are some males that will kind of be strong breeders, and they can they scratch the female, they get her going, and then the female starts producing. But it's more, you're going to get the female producing on her own if she's fed well and growing. She gets about 4 or 5 years old, and then she'll start developing follicles. I might be wrong on this, I don't know. Humans ovulate every month. Women ovulate every month. But I think that the snakes, they have the breeding season. I believe that it only happens once a year. I think. I don't know, I might be wrong. With boas, I think it just happens once a year, so she'll develop those follicles. But nothing is really going to happen from that. Their feeding habits can change. So from watching animals, watching my females grow, I know when they're ready to breed because of their behavior.
Okay.
So there will be slight behavior changes. So the females will kind of become a little bit more hungry.
Oh, okay.
Because they're thinking, my body needs to start growing so that I can make babies.
Gotcha.
So I need more food.
Okay.
So they'll start doing that. So that's kind of little side note that's interesting, but that just means you have to be aware of that. So maybe once a year, she'll start, developing follicles, and she might be a little bit different.
Okay.
She might be a little bit more snappy or whatever. And it's not even that she's snappy, but you're going to be putting that time in. I know, from the way you treat your ball python, you're going to develop a relationship with the snake, and the snake's going to trust you. And when an animal trusts you, it kind of changes everything.
Right.
When I take babies from the boas that are just calm, and I've raised them since they're babies, they know me, they trust me, I can go take their babies and they don't strike at me.
Oh, wow.
The same thing with even the ball pythons in general won't anyways, but it's once you have that, they become a lot more hesitant to bite you. They trust you, they're calm around you. So even if they are, the only time that they'll be a little funny maybe with the food.
Okay.
And there's certain snakes that even you could have food in your hand and they won't bite you. But that's a really kind of rare instance.
Have you ever had to file for an application for snake permits?
No. So here, basically in Ontario, as long as your snake is under 10 feet, you're good.
Okay.
So if your snake's under 10 feet, you're good. And if it's over that, I don't even think you can get a permit unless you're a zoo or something. Zoos and rescues might be able to get certain permits for that. I've never had to worry about any of that. The reptile industry here is basically totally unregulated, which is wonderful and terrible at the same time, because we don't, like, with cats and dogs, I think you can only have like 6. With reptiles, there is no limit. Like, that's why I'm able to be a reptile breeder without any... It's something that you get it from somebody else. You have to learn from somebody else. Like, I think even with tattoos, like, you can't go to tattoo school. There's no tattoo school here. You have to apprentice and learn. If I had to kind of go through a bit more of a process, be vetted a bit, you know, and make sure that I'm doing things properly, that might be better, because then not everyone that buys a snake would have to be a breeder, right?
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Alrighty, I think that's all the questions I have for now.
That's it?
Yep.
Very good. Hope you learned something. So you were asking me about like feeding and everything.
Yes.
Very good questions. I have a video all about feeding just for you, so you guys can go and check that out right now. If you thought this was interesting, smash the like button and, you know, ask any questions you have in the comments below.